Thanks for joining me on episode 745 of the Inspired Stewardship Podcast.
Hello, my friend. This is Dr. Brad Miller from the Pathway to Promise podcast. If you'd like to stay inspired, to stay on your pathway to promise, you can't do better than listening to the Inspired Stewardship Podcast with my friend, Scott Mader.
Are you already in alignment? And when you look at those beliefs, then look at the external measures. Look at what you're doing in the outer world. Look at what your bank account says. Look at what your budget says. Look at how you spent your money in the last 60 days says. And figure out, are those things in alignment? And if they're not, then you need to work on changing your beliefs and changing your behavior.
Welcome and thank you for joining us on the Inspired Stewardship Podcast. If you truly desire to become the person who God wants you to be, then you must learn to use your time, your talent, and your treasures for your true calling. In the Inspired Stewardship Podcast, you will learn to invest in yourself, invest in others, and develop your influence so that you can impact the world.
In today's episode about investing in others through stewarding your treasure, I talk with you about what your internal and external measures are with money. I also share why your money values may not be in alignment with your behavior and give you some tips on what to do about it.
As we talk about stewarding your treasures, wouldn't it be great if you could support this podcast and do it without costing yourself an extra dime? Turns out you can. All you have to do is use inspiredstewardship.com/Amazon when you're ready to make a purchase via Amazon, and a small commission will come back to support the show. If you enjoy the show when you're ready to buy from Amazon, just use inspiredstewardship.com/Amazon.
How do you measure money? I mean, when you think about it, do you simply look at your bank account and use that as a measure of your success or not? Do you think about the salary you get paid or the amount of money that you make in your business, and that's a measure of success? Do you actually think about how you define wealth, how you define rich, how do you define money in general? And have you really thought about whether those external measures, those numbers that we put on a page, the budget that we sit down, the amount we get paid this year, whatever it is, do those external behaviors and those external measures, do they match up with what you internally believe about money? See, the truth is, like everything, we've got to examine both our external data, the information, the empirical numbers, but we also have to work really hard and think about what's going on internally. What do we actually believe about money, and how is that affecting us? You know, the truth is we all have money beliefs. We all have money values. We all have things that we see about the world. And often those come to us, those start by coming to us from our origin story, from the house that we grew up in, the beliefs that our parents had or others around us had, what we're exposed to as a child. If we grew up poor, we have certain fundamental beliefs that often come about in our life. If we grew up rich, there's a different set, and it's not a good or bad, it's just different. There's going to be differences in what we believe about money because we had different experiences growing up. That's just a fact. It's going to happen. But the real question is, what do you do about it? Do you just accept those beliefs and move forward, or have your beliefs changed over time? Do you examine them and decide whether or not they're beliefs that really are in alignment with what your behavior is and what you want your behavior to be? Are they giving you the results that you want? And here again, I'm not just talking about external measures of success like having a higher salary or making more money in your business or having more money in savings or getting out of debt or other things, but I'm also talking about the internal measures of success. Do you get to spend time with your family? Do you emotionally feel like you're successful? Or do you simply feel like you're running from emergency to emergency, fire to fire, constantly trying to just stay ahead and dog paddle to keep your head above water? That match, that having that feeling that you've really got the most important things in life, like freedom around your time, freedom to be secure. One of my clients recently was let go because there was a disaster in the place where they worked, and the entire place is shut down and all of the employees are being let go. But because they've set up a financial foundation that works, this isn't an emergency for them. They can find another job. They can take time and do something that they really want to do. They have the luxury of being able to say no to things that they don't want to do because they've done the hard work of making sure that their behavior and their internal beliefs are all in alignment so that they could set up external measures in terms of having an emergency fund and money in the bank and these sorts of things. They've aligned them, and that helps them. So what are some of the questions you can ask yourself if you've noticed that maybe your internal beliefs are a little bit out of alignment? And I like to ask, what do you believe questions? Things like, what do you believe about earning money? Do you think that time is a factor of money or value? How do you relate money and time? And what do you believe about earning money? What do you believe about saving money? What do you believe about having money? What do you believe about debt? And what do you believe about paying off or paying back debts? What do you feel about spending money? How does that make you feel when you spend money? What do you believe is true about rich people? And what do you believe is true about poor people? And what do you feel when you get money, when you're given a gift or receive a windfall? When you think about these things and what story they tell you, that begins to lead you to think about the future. What do you believe about money for your future? What do you wish that you believed for each of these things? Are you already in alignment? And when you look at those beliefs, then look at the external measures. Look at what you're doing in the outer world. Look at what your bank account says. Look at what your budget says. Look at how you spent your money in the last 60 days says. And figure out, are those things in alignment? And if they're not, then you need to work on changing your beliefs and changing your behavior so that these things become aligned. You have to decide, is it a belief problem? Is it, I believe that when people make money, they're evil. The only way to make money is to take advantage of other people. Maybe I need to change that belief. Or is it that I have the right beliefs, but I'm not actually acting them out in my day-to-day life? I believe that debt is bad, and yet I'm behaving in a way that constantly causes me to go into debt. If that's true, then your behavior needs to change, not your belief, if that's what you want to bring into alignment. So you could change either side of the equation, but the first step is to ask yourself these questions. What do you believe, and what do you want to do about it? Thanks for listening.
Thanks so much for listening to the Inspired Stewardship Podcast. As a subscriber and listener, we challenge you to not just sit back and passively listen, but act on what you've heard and find a way to live your calling. If you like this episode on the stewardship of treasures, you can sign up for our treasures tips by going to inspiredstewardship.com/treasures or text in the U.S. 44222 treasures tips. And we'll send you 5 weeks of our best tips on stewarding your treasures. Until next time, invest your time, your talent, and your treasures. Develop your influence and impact the world.